Hey guys, welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I'm Ron Mackenzie Lafergie. So, funny story, I already did a part 1 on this list, and I kinda screwed up. Turns out a site listing fan-made Rangers looks insanely similar to the one listing real stories, and I mixed up a couple fan-made ones into the real ones. I made an oopsies. But this time I've made sure not just to double check, but to triple check that these are real. I'm hoping to keep my foot as far from my mouth as humanly possible. That said, if anything is amiss, let me know in the comments so I can keep getting better. Hey, if you finished this and want more, check out our video on the alternate versions of Deadpool next, but first, get ready, it's time for the top 10 alternate versions of the Power Rangers, part 2. Number 10. Power Rangers Ninja Storm. Ninja Storm, the 11th season, was a weird time for Power Rangers. They barely survived being cancelled by moving filming to New Zealand and going non-union, and the New Zealand thing stuck. The show continued to be filmed there for years. But this season did see the return of OG production manager Doug Sloan, who was with the show from the beginning up until Turbo. As you probably guessed, this was a ninja-inspired team fighting against the evil and surprisingly funny Lothor with the help of their Zords and Power Spheres, as well as a number of weapons and gadgets. It's a lot more lighthearted than previous versions, which some fans loved and others didn't like. Personally, I think the whole concept of Power Rangers is so damn campy that it's best to keep it as lighthearted as possible, so I love this. Let's be real, this is a formulaic show where people beat up big baddies and hop in their big machines and fight them some more. It's not The Godfather. Give me some damn levity. Number 9. Power Rangers Jungle Fury. Jungle Fury, the 16th season of the show, was a bit of a victim of circumstance. It took place during the 2007-2008 Writers Guild strike, which means several episodes in the middle had to be written by non-union writers instead of the original ones. When the real writers came back, they were stuck trying to work everything back into a cohesive story that they liked, and it got kinda weird. That said, it actually turned out to be a pretty popular season. It started out with just 3 Rangers, which let us really get to know them, plus their martial arts were totally rad. But there were definitely some drawbacks too. The villains were largely considered weak, one of whom was named Jared. I'll let you figure out how popular that decision was. And since the writers were stuck in a corner thanks to the strike, the ending was super anticlimactic. But it wasn't the worst season ever, and the theme song was totally rockin'. Number 8. Power Rangers Wild Force. Here's the first of my boo-boos from last time, because I accidentally used a fan-made Wild Prime instead of Wild Force. Jerks. But this time I've got the right one, and it's a really cool one. First and foremost, the Zords are insanely cool. They had all sorts of awesome animal Zords: giraffe, shark, elephant, eagle, lion, tiger, and bears. Oh my! Sorry, got carried away. As I was saying, the Wild Force had a bunch of Zords with even more combinations. They fought against the Orgs, the evil mutant demon things with horns, who, as the Red Ranger learned, have no hearts, and one was a wedding dress. Like previous seasons, the Wild Force had team-up episodes, but they took it a bit further this time. Since it was the 10th season, they did something special and had an episode called Forever Red. It saw Cole Evans, the Wild Force Red Ranger, team up with the other 9 Red Rangers in a final showdown with the Machine Empire. It was pretty cool. Number 7. Power Rangers Time Force. Time Force was the 9th season of Power Rangers, and similar to In Space and Lost Galaxy, it's generally considered to be among the darker seasons. It involved death and social issues like racism more than previous seasons. Instead of teens, the Time Force was made up of professional adults, Time Force officers who went to the past to stop Ransik and his army of convicts. Ransik was pretty interesting relative to other Power Rangers villains since he actually had some good qualities. He clearly cared about his daughter Nadira, even turning himself in at the end after he accidentally hits her. Also, fun fact, they had to cut certain scenes out of the final version. This is because this season came out soon after the attack on September 11th, and scenes of people screaming while buildings come crashing down would have been kind of in bad taste. Okay, that wasn't actually a fun fact, so that was just a fact. Oh, and that reminds me, if you're a fan of the show Friends, there was one airport scene that ended up being cut because of 9/11, but if you want to see it, look up Friends Airport Security. I was so psyched to see 4 minutes of Friends that I had never seen. I didn't even plan this. Number 6. Power Rangers RPM. RPM, the 17th season of Power Rangers, almost didn't get made, since Disney originally planned to cancel the series after Jungle Fury. But possibly due to a contract dispute with Bandai, they caved and made RPM. And it went off to a pretty crazy start, with executive producer Eddie Gazelian having blown through the entire budget halfway through the season. So he was fired. But the season ended up being fairly well received. Personally, I love the Zords. A lot of the vehicle seasons have kind of lame ones where they're just like cars or spaceships. But that's lame, I want animals. And RPM made a compromise, making cars that look like animals. A shark, wolf, croc, eagle, lion, bear, falcon, tiger, whale. So many. and they're pretty cool. The series was actually pretty dark too, taking place in a post-apocalyptic wasteland in an alternate universe, which was weird for some, especially with how strange it was having colorful rangers in a dreary wasteland, but they were so badass that a lot of people were totally cool with it. Oh, and are you wondering what RPM stands for? Me too. They never actually said in the show. One would assume rotations per minute, but that isn't exactly badass. But Bandai says it stands for Racing Performance Machine, so let's go with that. Side note, Bandai sounds totally wrong. Should it be Bandai? All the commercials say Bandai. I don't know what to believe. Number 5. Power Rangers Mystic Force. This is the other boo-boo I made in part 1, where instead of Mystic Force, I accidentally used Mystic Warriors. People need to be more imaginative with their damn fan-made names. Anyway, all saltiness aside, Mystic Force is right up my alley. Because there's magic. And I love magic. Mystic Force is way more fantasy inspired than other versions. Years ago, an army of the undead, led by the evil Mordecon, tried to take over the human realm. However, a legion of wizards managed to drive them off and cast them back to the underworld. But then when the show begins, the army is once again attacking, and in true Power Ranger fashion, 5 teenagers are chosen to fight the undead army using magic. The Zords are similarly fantastical, with a phoenix, a Garuda, a mermaid, a sprite, and a minotaur, which is totally badass. They even make friends with a genie. Yeah. If you're looking for a change of pace, Mystic Force is the way to go. Number 4. Power Rangers in Space. Last list, a lot of people had an issue with the fact that I had Lost Galaxy and not In Space. Frankly, it was just because I watched Lost Galaxy more when I was a kid, but as luck would have it, I get to do a part 2, so we can have both. Power Rangers in Space was the 6th season in the franchise and was actually intended to be the last. But the ratings were so huge, it kinda saved the franchise. Why the big ratings? Well, they changed up a bunch of things. It was the first season to use an orchestral score instead of rock music. They changed up a bunch of the characters, but most of all, it was the conclusion to the previous 6 seasons, which really helped to revitalize the story, which was becoming a bit dull. This season saw the Space Rangers, with their astromorphers, taking on the evil Astronema, who was a sister of the Red Ranger Andros, while trying to save Zordon. The Zords aren't as cool as some of the other seasons since they're just spaceships, but the emotional conclusion to the Zordon era was pretty great. And sad. R.I.P. Zordon. Number 3. Power Rangers Zeo. Zeo was a big one for Power Rangers. It was the 4th season and the first time that the costumes changed. This would of course be the first of many costume changes, and it wasn't exactly a surprise since Super Sentai did the same thing a lot, but it was still a bit risky, especially since kids often don't do so well with change. However, since the ratings were dropping, they knew they had to change things up, and rather than killing off a main character, they decided to change up the costumes and also power up the Rangers. It was the first time robotic villains were seen, when previously the Rangers had more or less had the monopoly on robotics. Anyway, Zeo saw a new set of Rangers take on the mantle after harnessing the power of the Zeo Crystal, becoming Power Rangers Zeo. They used their weapons and Zeo Zords to take on King Mondo's army of mechs. Mondo was basically Dr. Eggman from Sonic with his mechanical minions, but like, he somehow managed to be even less competent. Number 2. Power Rangers Dino Thunder. Dino Thunder was, in my opinion, one of the coolest looking teams of all the seasons. It was the 12th season and saw the return of dinosaurs, something that I'm always a fan of. It also saw the return of none other than Tommy Oliver, the hugely popular character best known as the Green Ranger. This time he was fittingly a paleontology professor, and 3 of his detention students found dino gems, turning them and Tommy into Dino Rangers. The gems gave them superpowers, with different members gaining different powers, like super speed, super strength, and a sonic scream. They had a bunch of cool weapons and vehicles, but as with any dinosaur season, the highlight for me is the Zords. Tyrannosaurs, Tricerazord, Pterazord, Dragozord, Stegozord. So great. Dinosaurs are cool. And there's a bit of a confusing story behind this one too. The Dino Gems came from the meteors that killed off the dinosaurs, but in Dino Supercharge End of Extinction, it was retconned so that the dinosaurs never went extinct, so these Rangers wouldn't have gotten their powers. But then Super Ninja Steel revealed that Dino Charge actually took place in an alternate universe, so everything is still canon. Good. Number 1. Power Rangers S.P.D. S.P.D, the 13th season, is seen as one of the best by some, but not all fans agree. S.P.D, or Space Patrol Delta, takes place in 2025, when the Trubian Empire decides to attack Earth. The A-Spot of the S.P.D decides to go rogue, so the B-Squad has to take the reins, and the series had a lot going for it. The acting was actually quite good, with surprisingly decent actors bringing some legitimacy to the show. This allowed for more character-centric episodes, with each character getting their own episode to flesh out their personality, which is probably part of why some younger viewers didn't like it as much. They had some cool weapons and cool vehicles, although they weren't animals, so they lost out a bit in my books. It was also the first season to have a female Red Ranger, which was pretty nifty. Go ahead, call me a soy boy, I think it's great. That said, the season wasn't perfect. Some fans thought they borrowed too much from the Super Sentai counterpart, and others thought the characters were boring. boring. But that doesn't stop S.P.D from being one of the highest rated seasons ever. And that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please smack that thumbs up button and subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more videos. Let me know which of these was your fave in the comment section down below, or if I somehow missed your favorite after 2 full lists. And if you want a sweet playlist to watch so you can just relax and let the nerdiness wash over you, check out our Top 10 alternate versions playlist on the channel. Until next time, I'm Ron Mackenzie Lafergie with Top 10 Nerd. Later, nerds.